Hey everybody, welcome back. Before I get started talking about comics or anything like that, I'd like to ask a small favor. Uh, One of my best friends since I was 15, she and I were in our first band together, and she's pretty much been a sister to me, or like a sister to me, for the past, I don't know, close to 40 years now. Uh, she walked in her house the other day and found her daughter had died of a drug overdose. And I'm pretty close to this situation. Like I say, I know the kid ever since she was born. Her and my son, there's just a few months difference in their age, and this is just a beautiful little girl. And she had got into drugs, and she'd had a lot of trouble with the law over the past 10 years, in and out of jail and rehab, and you know, I guess my way of thinking. I just kind of thought, well, after all that, and she's got two beautiful little girls, so like 7 and 10 years old. That her mom is actually has custody of, and she's raising her kids. But I think I hadn't talked to my friend in a while about it, but I guess she had been in jail for a few months, and I think I'm not sure what the drug was. It might have been meth or heroin, but she had a real problem with it, and I was kind of hoping, like I guess a lot of other people, that she would kind of straighten up and see all that she had to live for with those two little girls. But I guess I don't know all the details because I haven't really uh, talked to her yet. Uh, I'm supposed to go to the family visitation tomorrow night, and then the funeral's the next day. But like I say, it was kind of one of those things, and I know her mom had really wanted for a long time for her to straighten up, and just like I say, a beautiful little girl, and really a great person. Like I say, had two beautiful little daughters herself, and I guess she had got out of jail and just couldn't put it away. Couldn't give it up. I can't imagine uh, losing a child, and that actually makes three grandchildren that her mother has lost in the last. Well, in the last 8 or 10 years, that family has had to endure more tragedy than any family I've known personally. Because within those 8 or 10 years, she lost two nephews. One to a drug overdose. I think one to a really bad construction accident. Her dad passed away while he was having dialysis. Her husband, uh, and this might be some of where it originated with her daughter. Her husband was an alcoholic. He was an addictive personality. Good guy. Just like the daughter, just a great person, but they couldn't put it down, and he actually committed suicide. Shot himself in the head while she was on the phone with him. They've been having some trouble, so she had to deal with that. Like I say, the two nephews, her dad passed away, and her husband. That was all like within 4 or 5 years, and now with her daughter coming in and finding her daughter had passed away from a drug overdose. Uh, like I say, this is I'm just heartbroken for the family, and I'm really close to this situation, and like I say, I can't imagine having to deal with anything like that. And I know a lot of people have, and probably some of you have, tragedies in your life. And I'm not making light of any of that. It's just, I'm kind of close to this. But if, as far as a small favor, if you could uh, just send up a little prayer for her family, if you could, and if you don't believe that way, or whatever, maybe just send some good thoughts their way. And like I say, this is really, sorry, this is really kind of laying on me. So if you guys could do that, I'd appreciate it. Okay, I just got a little stack of stuff here. I hardly ever buy new comics anymore, and actually, I don't know if disheartened is the word, but as far as a lot of stuff DC and Marvel put out, and I was a big DC guy, and it's just got to the point, I know there's some good stuff in there, but it's just got to the point where I don't really recognize the characters that I grew up with anymore. I know there's some good artists and stuff, but just the whole thing, I kind of had some hope for DC when they did Rebirth. Because, oh, well, they're bringing, some of my heroes back, those versions. you know, and I know things have to change, and you have to like cater to a younger audience a lot of times or a newer audience. But just it got to the point where I couldn't recognize any of the characters that I loved anymore. It wasn't anything, you know. And same thing with Marvel. I couldn't read anything Marvel's putting out. And I know there's a lot of good indie stuff out now, and indie, I guess I don't know if you call indie like Image and Dark Horse and you know, Boom Studios and all that, IDW. You can't really call those little press companies anymore, but they're putting out some good stuff, and I kind of dip my toe in the pool once in a while and read some of that stuff. But this is just some stuff that I had pre-ordered for a couple of months through my subscription service. And that's where I got all my new comics. And I rarely darken the doors of a comic shop anymore, just because the shops we have around here. I mean, they're good people run it, but as far as like having like a complete line of older back issues and newer stuff, it just, you know, it was just, in my view, it was just a little bit lacking. But this is just some stuff I had on order forever, and well, one highlight for DC, and I'm sure some of you have already done a video showing some of this stuff, was the Kamandi challenge. Of course, Kamandi is my all-time favorite character. Was excited as hell to hear about this. So I pre-ordered the first issues of that, so I got those. But I got this in the other day, and this is just some straggling stuff that they were waiting to send to me when the newer stuff came out, I guess. But here's JLA number 10. It's got a variant John Romita Jr. cover. Like I say, JLA is one of my all-time favorite titles, but I had to give up on it. It just you know, didn't feel like anything that I was even familiar with anymore. I'm not to say that, you know, everybody else shouldn't enjoy it. It's just doesn't do anything for me. But I really loved this cover, so I thought I'd get that for the variant cover anyway. Of course, I'll read it, but you know. And I was reading Civil War II, and was wanting to get the last couple issues in. I think I still yet to get number 8. But I had number 7 on order, and I had I'm sure a lot of you read this. Kind of liking the story. Like I say, it didn't really resemble characters that I knew anymore. But I also got a variant cover. Like I say, even if you don't like the stories, I mean, you can still look at comics as a piece of art. And here we have a variant Jim Steranko cover. Couldn't pass that one up. So hard to beat Steranko. So we have that. And as to the aforementioned Kamandi challenge, like I said, when I first heard about that, I almost passed out because I've been wanting the Kamandi series to come back for years. And I'd read some interviews with Dan DiDio, one of the head guys from DC, and saying it wasn't that there wasn't any interest in doing a Kamandi series. If anything, there was too much interest. And you had all these guys that were wanting to do a Kamandi series, so they figured the best thing they could do, it just like all these artists and writers that want to do this series, they just put all their names in a hat and like drew them out at random of who would be paired with who as far as artist and writer. Of course, anybody that's heard about this project know there's some big names. Neil Adams is going to do issue number 2. And I haven't really read them all the way through. I was just kind of thumbing through it. But I am going to sit down and really read it, and it really looks good. I think they're trying to be true to what Jack Kirby set out to do. And like I say, probably tied with the JLA as my all-time favorite series, and this is my favorite character of all time. So I was really hyped to hear about this. I'm not sure. I got the variant covers that came out. I'm not sure. This might be the original cover of number 1. I'm not sure, and I guess this is by Bruce Timm, maybe. Yeah. But this has got 2 stories in it, and the other one is done by Dale Eaglesham, who was one of my favorite artists when the Justice Society was still an ongoing book before the New 52 and all that. But really looking forward to digging into this. Not a whole lot of command other than the original series, which ran 59 issues. There wasn't a whole lot of Kamandi stuff. There was a 6-issue miniseries called Kamandi at Earth's End, come out like in '91. Not all that great, but it was Kamandi, and I bought it. Got it, Of course, he made some appearances in other books in the '70s, and later on, I think he was in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the Batman Superman title at one time. Not very few appearances. I think he was in Final Crisis. I've tried to. I might be just a couple issues shy of having like every appearance of Commandy, but for sure I had to have this one. Here's one of the variant covers by, excuse me, Keith Giffen and Scott Koblish. This is more true to what Kirby's artwork was, and I think sometimes Keith Giffen is kind of trying to do a Jack Kirby style. I saw this on when he did a couple issues of the Legion of Superheroes a couple of years ago. But to me, that's a really great cover. Really, I think it's a great tribute to Jack Kirby, the King. And the other variant cover by Dale Eaglesham. Another great cover. Like I say, not a whole lot of Commandy stuff, so if there's variant covers, I'm going to try to snatch them. Okay, and along with that, I came out with a book called The Commandy Challenge Special. This is a book full of reprints. This actually is like a cover swap, or the exact cover that was on Commandy 32. So you have, and this is one of those beautiful square-bound books that I love. But you have the reprint from Commandy 32. You have the preprint of Commandy number 1. You have maps of Earth AD after disaster, and you have 2 previously unpublished Commandy stories, not Jack Kirby. And I actually have the Xeroxes. It was all part of the DC Comics implosion, canceled comic cavalcade thing. But I actually have the Xerox copies. But they decided finally, to publish these stories, and I'm sure they're in black and white. But yeah, it's a fun little read, and there's actually some Jack Kirby art in here. And this kind of hooks into, if anybody read The Sandman by Kirby back in the 70s, that little character that was his sidekick, Jed. They actually have a story called Santa Claus War on the Seal Man, it was, The Sandman ran 6 issues, and that story was actually supposed to be slated for Sandman 7. And they already reprinted it once, and it was in a DC Digest, I think. And I've got it somewhere over here, but yeah, they already reprinted that story in color, and I think this is in black and white. It's kind of a part of the middle story, and it's like framed by new art by like Dick Ayers, I think, Danny Belandi. But yeah, like 2 really unknown classics of Commandy, so I'm looking forward to really digging into this one too. Like I say, it's just a basic cover swipe of Commandy 32. One of my favorite issues, actually. So really, really happy to see this. I'm kind of hoping that this really sells well, and maybe somebody will pick it up. Keith Giffen looks like a good choice for that, and it would be to me, it would be a great ongoing series. But that's just because I'm a fan. 2 or 3 more things I got. I'm a big fan of the Back Issue magazine, and this is the All Captains issue. Features Captain Marvel from DC and Marvel versions, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, Captain Universe, Captain Victory by Jack Kirby, Captain Storm and the Losers from the DC War titles. They got art by C.C. Beck, Pat Broderick, Kirby, Scott Shaw, who did Captain Carrot, Jim Starlin, Roy Thomas, some articles. Really cool. And Comic Book Creator, that was issue 93, the back issue, but this is Comic Book Creator number 14 with a spotlight on Kelly Jones. Great artist. I love this stuff on Batman. As you can tell, Bernie Wrightson was a big influence. I'm sure a lot of you read the series with Len Wein and Kelly Jones. Did a great Batman, and I think what he's known most for is like Deadman. He did some work for Marvel Comics back in the day when he worked on Micronauts. But just a great overview. I've kind of thumbed through this, but just a great overview of Kelly Jones' career. And there's a cool little article called about Bob Kane, the ghost of Bob Kane. And I'm sure a lot of you have that are Batman fans and have kind of heard they're giving co-curator status to Bill Finger, and because a lot of people ghosted for Bob Kane, George Russos, I think Shelley Moldoff, Jerry Robinson, who I think helped created the Joker. But it's kind of, I don't know if it really paints Bob in a bad light. I've just kind of thumbed through it, but I think a lot more of the creators that helped on Batman are kind of put in the spotlight in that article. And some more cool stuff in here. Tomorrow's has got some great magazines. Back issue, comic book artist, comic book creator. You have all the great companion books for Marvel and DC, Silver and Bronze and Golden Age stuff. But really looking forward to digging into this one. And last but certainly not least, as far as comic strips, that was like some of the first stuff that I read when I was a kid, along with some stuff like Archie and the Harvey stuff. And but probably comic strip wise, after the Peanuts, which is probably my all-time favorite, and this was running a close second, if not a co-favorite of mine, was the BC strip by Johnny Hart. I have most of the old paperbacks. Of course, when you're a kid, you don't realize that the paperbacks are actually just reprints of the comic strip. That's been in the newspapers for years. And if you didn't get a newspaper every day, then, which we didn't when I was a kid. I think my mom and dad got the Sunday paper, so we got to read the color funnies. But BC was always one of my favorites, and this was, like I said, this has been pre-ordered for probably 3 or 4 months, called The Best of BC. It's got strips from the 1950s all the way up to the 2000s. After, I think Johnny Hart passed away in 2007, but his grandchildren actually took over the strip, and I think it's still being published, maybe in some newspapers. Of course, it's online. But just a great package, hardback. Got some great stuff from the 50s. Sorry about that. And people that's read BC, you can kind of tell it's a little bit different, say, from the 60s. Let me find where the 60s are. Okay. There's a different chapter for every decade. So you have the 60s. You can tell the style was changing just a little bit. And really changed in the 70s. But just a great read. This is one of those ones that I just, I cracked up, most every time. And I'm really sad that there wasn't more animated stuff. There was a BC Thanksgiving cartoon and a BC Christmas cartoon. I think I have either one or both on VHS. They're not on DVD. I think you can probably find them on YouTube, like split up into parts. But not a whole lot of BC stuff, as far as recently. It doesn't get as reprinted as much as, say, the Peanuts stuff or Calvin and Hobbes or Garfield or whatever, but which I love Calvin and Hobbes. But just some great stuff. When I was a kid, I didn't get a lot of this stuff. It's sort of like watching the Bugs Bunny cartoons. I was like, it was funny. You didn't know what it meant until you were older, but it was funny regardless. And it's just a lot of great characters. And I just love, and my mom would take me to a department store called Rose's, and I think there was another one called Hex, and they always had the little BC paperbacks that were like 50 cents, but I actually didn't know then that those were reprints of the actual daily strip. But I've still got a few that I need to get, but just really love BC. Anybody that's a BC fan, highly recommended. All right, guys, that's all I got. Like I say, thanks for tuning in. Like I say, just kind of give my friend and her family some good thoughts. And I will see you next time. Onward and upward.